Perfect, perfect. It's weird because I can't see myself, and I have to figure out a way to keep the console up at the same time. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, sure. So my name is Regina Brooks, and I am with Serendipity Literary Agency. I have had the agency for 10 years and have worked in both children's and adult. I do both children's and adult projects, and in the children's book market I do picture books, middle grade, early readers, young adult. And I'm also the author of Writing Great Books for Young Adults. That was published at the end of last year by Source Books. Are there any questions? Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of weird because I don't see anybody. I'm having to read. Oh, here we go. Okay, we have a question from Jason. When an agent says YA on their site and then lists a whole bunch of other genres, does that generally mean they represent all YA or just YA of those genres? Oh, okay, that's a good question. I would say it's kind of a specific question. It really depends on the how they have it set up. So, for example, if I say YA, I mean all YA. I also, on my website, I say that I don't represent science fiction and fantasy, but in YA I do represent science fiction and fantasy. I think the easiest way to get an answer to that question is to really ask the person whose website it is, because I guess that can be a little bit confusing. Okay, what do I like most about being an agent? I think the thing about being an agent is the fact that you're always working with different people and you're not stuck in a specific genre. When I was working as an editor in-house, I was limited to the type of books that I could do based on the list that I was working on. So the thing that I like most about being an agent is the fact that I can work on children's books, I can work on YA, I can work on fiction and nonfiction, and just kind of whatever tastes that suit me, as opposed to being stuck in one given category. And I think also being an agent is the perfect job for anyone who has who gets bored very easily or has a really strong curiosity. What are the biggest mistakes in manuscripts you read coming across your desk? I think what I'm finding is that people, especially like in YA, it seems like people get stuck in a given genre. So they say they want to do fantasy, but they haven't really read enough fantasy in that category, and so they think that they're doing something relatively new and fresh, but it's kind of the same old story that we've heard before. So I think a lot of people want to write, but they don't want to read. Okay, the question was, you mentioned middle grade and early reader. How are they different, i.e. the ages? Every publisher does this differently, and the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, probably about maybe 10 years ago, put together a grid that I find incredibly helpful, and it's on my website, and it breaks down the number of pages and the number of the word count for each of those different categories, middle grade and early reader. But typically, I would say for early readers, it's usually 5 to about 7, and middle grade is usually 8 to about 11. What would I love to see more of in my submissions? What would I love to see more of in my submissions? That's kind of like, I mean, I can give you kind of a flip answer and just say quality, but I think I would love to see more early readers and middle grade. You know, there's been this big push on YA, and I think it's starting to get very saturated, and there's a lot of books out on the market, and the trends tend to go with demographics. So like there was this onslaught of young adults, you know, 12 and up, and now the middle grade demographic is starting to beef up a bit, and I'm finding that a lot of publishers are asking me for really quality middle grade manuscripts. So I would love to see more of those. Okay, the question is, what kind of a turnaround can a new writer expect to have to do required revisions? Is it days, weeks, or months? Okay. So I'm assuming this question is once the book has been purchased by an editor and they are asked to do revisions on the manuscript. Usually, it really depends on what your contract says is your due date for the manuscript. So for example, if I had a manuscript due date of December 15th and I sent in my first draft, say in August, then I would need to make sure that I had a quality enough manuscript, I would say sometime around October or so that the manuscript can be fully read and evaluated by the editor, and then we would have the final manuscript for December. Now, if you're asking about that, Holly, can you clarify that question a little bit for me? Are you talking about once the manuscript has been purchased by the editor or before? Because some agents like myself, I do work with my authors to do revisions prior to sending it to the publisher. Can you clarify your question? Okay, you said if the book was purchased. Yeah, what typically happens with the publishing companies is they will, once they acquire a book, they will set a time as to when they think that book should be published, and they'll put it on their list, say for like 2012. So if that book is put on the list for 2012, you have to kind of backtrack how long it's going to take for them to have the book in production, get the catalog copy, all the things that they have to do internally, and they need to have a full manuscript before they can start that process. So the revision process typically is determined, the time frame is determined by you and the editor based on when that book should be published. How many new authors do I sign per year on average? This too varies depending on, like, a lot of times you'll have, they do this in-house too, you'll have like A-level clients, B-level clients, and C-level clients. C-level clients are books, or I don't want to say clients, but books, where they'll say, oh, this is going to be like a big book, meaning that you're anticipating a really large advance on the manuscript. And there's some manuscripts where you know you're not necessarily going to get a huge advance, but you feel like once that book is published that you're going to have really good sales along the way. So there's A-level clients, A-level manuscripts, B-level manuscripts, and C-level manuscripts. So I typically try to balance my portfolio. I'll have some books that I'm hoping at least will garner a huge advance, and then there's some that I feel like, okay, this is going to be a nominal advance, but I anticipate the book doing well. And also with A-level, B-level, and C-level titles, it also determines how much work I have to put in to make sure that I sell the project. So there'll be some books that I know are going to go to auction, and then there are going to be some books that, you know, I'm praying that, you know, someone will pick up. So once I determine what that balance is going to be during the year, as a matter of fact, some of my authors, I was just contacting some of my authors not too long ago, like about a month ago, to see what manuscripts were going to come in for the fall, if they had finished their newest books, because I don't like to feel inundated in the fall, because a lot of manuscripts get sold in the fall. So if I have, it's really a juggling act, and it's not like a typical situation, but I can just tell you, like in the last, I would say last 3 months or so, I've signed on 6 clients, which is kind of a lot. But it seems like people are really doing an excellent job at doing their research on the internet and getting a sense of what kind of things people are interested in. And the kind of manuscripts that I'm getting are really good, and proposals. So it varies. Okay, so the next question is, can everyone see the questions? Do I need to repeat the question? I'm going to repeat the question. Okay. Oh, okay. So the question, I'll repeat the question anyway. The question is, I do picture books and young adult. How does the editorial process differ for picture books? Okay, yes. Please repeat it. Hold on.